Ever wondered just how essential understanding host-based vulnerabilities is in the realm of penetration testing? Well, let's dive into it. In the world of pen testing, host-based vulnerabilities are like hidden doorways into a system. They are weaknesses or flaws in a system's security that, when exploited, can grant unauthorized access or control. These could be anything from insecure configurations, software bugs, to outdated security patches. As a pen tester, understanding these vulnerabilities is crucial. Why? Because these are the very loopholes that hackers look for when they want to break into a system. By identifying and understanding these vulnerabilities, a pen tester can devise strategies to fortify the system against potential cyber threats. In this way, a pen tester's knowledge of host-based vulnerabilities is not just about finding weaknesses, it's about turning those weaknesses into strengths. So, as you can see, understanding host-based vulnerabilities is not just a nice-to-have, it is an absolute necessity in the world of cybersecurity. The first step in identifying host-based vulnerabilities is information gathering. This is the cornerstone of any successful penetration testing endeavor. Information gathering, sometimes referred to as reconnaissance or footprinting, is all about understanding the terrain before wading in. So how do we gather information? Well, let's break it down. Firstly, we have network scanning. This involves taking a virtual magnifying glass to the network, observing the interconnected devices and identifying their roles. We're essentially mapping out the digital landscape, pinpointing where the hosts are and how they interact with each other. Tools like Nmap or Nessus come in handy for this. Next, we delve into port scanning. This is the process of sending packets to specific ports on a host to see how it responds. The responses can tell us a lot about what services the host is running, and if there are any open doors we could potentially walk through. This is like knocking on a house's doors and windows to see which ones might be unlocked. Now, you might be wondering, why is all this necessary? Well, imagine you're a general planning a battle. You wouldn't just charge in blindly, would you? You'd want to know the layout of the land, where your enemy's defenses are strongest and where they might be weak. The same principle applies here. A clear and comprehensive picture of the target environment is crucial before proceeding to the next steps. It helps us identify potential attack vectors and plan our tactics accordingly. But gathering information isn't just about finding potential weaknesses, it's also about understanding the target better. The more we know about a system, the better equipped we are to test it thoroughly and responsibly. The goal isn't just to find vulnerabilities, but to understand them in the context of the system we're testing. In the grand scheme of things, information gathering is the foundation upon which the entire pen testing process is built. With a thorough understanding of the target environment, we can move forward to the next step, vulnerability analysis. Now that you've gathered your information, the next step is vulnerability analysis. This is where the rubber meets the road in our mission to uncover host-based vulnerabilities. The process of vulnerability analysis involves scrutinizing your collected data to identify potential weaknesses. It's a bit like being a detective hunting for clues that point to vulnerabilities in your system. You'll be looking for anything out of the ordinary, anything that could be exploited by a nefarious agent. One of the most powerful tools in your vulnerability analysis arsenal are automated scanning tools. These digital detectives scour your system's landscape, identifying potential vulnerabilities. They're efficient, they're thorough, and they're relentless. But remember, they aren't infallible. They can sometimes generate false positives, alerts for vulnerabilities that aren't really there, or false negatives, missing vulnerabilities that are present. That's where manual methods come in. Manual methods of vulnerability analysis involve a more hands-on approach. This could mean examining system logs, reviewing configuration settings, or even conducting source code reviews. It's meticulous work, but it's often here that the most dangerous vulnerabilities are found. The magic, however, happens when you correlate your findings. This is where you cross-reference the results from your automated tools with your manual analysis. It's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You're matching up different pieces of information to see the big picture. You're looking for patterns, for consistencies, for anomalies. You're checking your automated results against your manual findings to eliminate false positives and negatives. This correlation helps you zero in on the true vulnerabilities. And there you have it, vulnerability analysis in a nutshell. It's not just about finding vulnerabilities, it's about understanding them, about knowing what they mean and how they can be exploited. It's about turning information into insight. With a list of potential vulnerabilities in hand, we now proceed to the final step, vulnerability validation. This is where we'll confirm whether those potential vulnerabilities you've identified are real, and that's what we'll explore in the next scene. Until then, keep your detective hat on and your eyes peeled for clues. The final step in identifying host-based vulnerabilities is vulnerability validation. This stage is crucial as it's where we confirm the existence of a vulnerability by exploiting it in a controlled environment. Think of it as a detective verifying their hunch or a scientist testing their hypothesis. We're not looking to cause harm here, rather, our aim is to verify the vulnerability for the sake of improvement. This process helps us distinguish between real threats and false positives. It's like separating the wheat from the chaff, the real from the unreal. It's not enough to merely identify a potential vulnerability, we must validate it. It's only through this rigorous testing that we can be certain of its existence. Remember, not every vulnerability identified in the analysis phase is a genuine threat. That's why this stage of validation is so crucial. With the validation of vulnerabilities, we can effectively plan our next steps in the penetration testing process. Let's revisit the key points we've discussed today. In the vast arena of cybersecurity, understanding host-based vulnerabilities is of paramount importance. These vulnerabilities are weaknesses within the systems that could potentially be exploited by threat actors. The process of identifying these vulnerabilities starts with information gathering. This is akin to assembling the pieces of a puzzle where every piece of data could lead to the potential discovery of a vulnerability. It's all about being thorough and patient, as the smallest detail could be the key to uncovering a major vulnerability. Next, we delve into vulnerability analysis. This stage involves dissecting the gathered data, identifying potential weak points, and understanding their implications. It's like being a detective, where you're looking for clues and patterns that could reveal potential threats. Finally, we validate these vulnerabilities. This is where we verify the identified threats, ensuring that they are indeed real and not false positives. Remember, understanding host-based vulnerabilities is a critical skill in pen testing. It's not just about finding these vulnerabilities, but understanding them and knowing how to exploit them effectively.